1. What heritage sites have you visited in your country? 2. Which heritage site impressed you the most? Why? 3. Have you ever taken part in any heritage preservation activities? 4. Do you prefer visiting historical places or modern attractions? Why? 5. What traditional customs does your family still? One. What heritage sites have you visited in your country? Example: I have visited several heritage sites in Vietnam, such as Ha Long Bay, Hoi An ancient town, and the imperial city of Hue. One of the most famous is Ha Long Bay because it has many beautiful limestone islands. I went there with my family last summer. It is located in Quang Ninh province. The scenery was wonderful and the weather was pleasant. This trip helped me understand Morab.
Two. Which heritage site impressed you the most? Why? Example: the heritage site that impressed me most is Hoi An ancient town. I was impressed by the old yellow houses and colorful lanterns. What I like most is the peaceful atmosphere. When I walked around the town at night, I felt relaxed and happy. This place shows the beauty of traditional Vietnamese architecture and culture. Three. Have you ever taken part in any heritage preservation activities? Example: yes, I have taken part in a heritage preservation activity. I once joined a school campaign to clean up a historical temple in my hometown. We picked up rubbish and put up posters to remind visitors not to damage the site. The purpose was to raise awareness about protecting heritage. Through this activity, I learned that small actions can make a big difference.
4. Do you prefer visiting historical places or modern attractions? Why? Example: I prefer visiting historical places to modern attractions. The reason is that historical places help me understand the past and learn about my culture. It helps me appreciate traditional values. Modern attractions are entertaining, but they do not teach me much. I think historical places are more meaningful for students. Five. What traditional customs does your family still keep? Example: my family still keeps many traditional customs, especially celebrating Tet together. We usually clean the house, decorate it with flowers, and prepare traditional food such as bonchung. This tradition helps us feel closer and remember our ancestors. It also teaches me to respect family values and preserve cultural heritage. 6. Why is it important to preserve cultural heritage? 7. Do you think young people care about heritage enough today? 8. Is it better to preserve old buildings or replace them with new ones? 9. Should the government spend more money on preserving heritage? 10. Is tourism good or bad for heritage?
6. Why is it important to preserve cultural heritage? Example, it is important to preserve cultural heritage because it helps us understand our history and identity. Cultural heritage shows how people lived in the past and what values they had. It also allows future generations to learn about their roots. Without preservation, many traditions and historical sites may disappear forever. I believe preserving heritage is a way to respect our cultural identity.
Seven. Do you think young people care about heritage enough today? Example, I don't think young people care about heritage enough today. Many young people prefer modern entertainment and social media. They rarely visit museums or historical sites. However, some young people are becoming more aware and join preservation activities. I think schools should teach more about heritage to help students understand its importance. Eight. Is it better to preserve old buildings or replace them with new ones? Example, I think it is better to preserve old buildings than replace them with new ones. Old buildings have historical and cultural value. They help people understand how cities developed in the past. Replacing them with modern buildings may destroy cultural identity. New buildings are useful, but they should be built in other areas, not instead of heritage sites. Nine. Should the government spend more money on preserving heritage? Example, the government should spend more money on preserving heritage. This money can be used to repair old buildings and protect historical sites. It will help prevent damage and keep them in good condition. Preserving heritage also attracts tourists and brings economic benefits. Therefore, investing in heritage is not a waste of money but a long-term investment. Ten. Is tourism good or bad for heritage sites? Example, tourism is both good and bad for heritage sites. On the one hand, it helps promote culture and brings money for preservation. On the other hand, too many tourists can cause pollution and damage historical places. If tourism is managed well, it can be very beneficial. However, without control, it may destroy the heritage instead of protecting it. 11. What are the biggest threats to heritage sites today? 12. How does pollution affect cultural heritage? 13. What should people do to protect heritage when visiting? 14. How can schools help students care more about heritage? 15. What can young people do to preserve heritage? 11. What are the biggest threats to heritage sites today? Example, the biggest threats to heritage sites today are pollution, over-tourism, and lack of awareness. One of the main problems is that too many visitors damage historical places. This leads to the destruction of buildings and loss of cultural value. Climate change is also a serious threat because it causes floods and erosion. If people do not take action, many heritage sites may. (12) How does pollution affect cultural heritage? Example, pollution affects cultural heritage by damaging buildings and historical monuments. Air pollution causes erosion on old stones and walls. Water pollution also harms heritage sites near rivers and seas. As a result, many places lose their original beauty and value. If pollution continues, it will become more difficult to preserve cultural heritage for future generations. (13) What should people do to protect heritage when visiting? Example, people should respect heritage sites when visiting. They should not litter, write on walls, or damage objects. It is important to follow the rules and listen to tour guides. Visitors should also educate others about protecting heritage. Small actions like keeping the place clean can help preserve cultural values. (14) How can schools help students care more about heritage? Example, schools can help students care more about heritage by teaching them in lessons and organizing field trips. They should invite experts to talk about culture and history. This will help students understand the importance of heritage. When students learn through real experiences, they will feel more responsible for preserving it.
(15) What can young people do to preserve heritage? Example, young people can preserve heritage by taking part in volunteer activities and awareness campaigns. They should respect cultural sites and encourage others to do the same. One simple way is to share information about heritage on social media. By doing this, young people can help protect cultural values and inspire others to care more. (16) What are some famous heritage sites in Vietnam? 17. Which Vietnamese heritage site should be promoted to foreigners? 18. What traditional festivals in Vietnam should be preserved? 19. How can we preserve traditional crafts, e.g. pottery, weaving? 20. Why is Ao Dai considered a cultural symbol of Vietnam?
17. Which Vietnamese heritage site should be promoted to foreigners? Example, I think Hoi An ancient town should be promoted to foreigners. It is famous for its traditional architecture and lantern festivals. Foreigners will be impressed by the peaceful atmosphere and friendly people. This place shows a clear picture of Vietnamese culture. Promoting Hoi An can attract more tourists and help the local economy develop. (18) What traditional festivals in Vietnam should be preserved? Example, traditional festivals such as Tet, Mid-Autumn Festival, and Hung King's Commemoration Day should be preserved. They reflect Vietnamese traditions and beliefs. These festivals help people gather together and remember their ancestors. They also teach young people about cultural values. Preserving these festivals is important to keep national identity. (19) How can we preserve traditional crafts, e.g. pottery, weaving? Example, we can preserve traditional crafts by teaching young people and supporting local craftsmen. The government should provide training and financial support. It is important to promote these products to tourists. When people buy handmade products, traditional crafts will have a chance to survive and develop. (20) Why is Ao Dai considered a cultural symbol of Vietnam? Example, Ao Dai is considered a cultural symbol of Vietnam because it represents traditional beauty and elegance. It has a long history and is worn by Vietnamese women on special occasions. Ao Dai is often worn at festivals, weddings, and even in schools. It shows the grace and identity of Vietnamese culture. (21) What will happen if we don't preserve heritage? 22. Imagine you are a tour guide. How would you introduce a heritage site? 23. If you could save only one heritage site, which one would it be? 24. How can technology help preserve heritage? 25. Do you think virtual museums will replace real ones in (21) What will happen if we don't preserve heritage? Example, if we don't preserve heritage, many historical sites and traditions will disappear. People will lose connection with their past and cultural identity. Future generations will not be able to learn about history through real places. As a result, cultural values may be forgotten. Preserving heritage is necessary to protect our roots and pass them to the next generation. 22. Imagine you are a tour guide. How would you introduce a heritage site? Example, if I were a tour guide, I would introduce Hoi an ancient town by talking about its history first. Then, I would explain its traditional architecture and lantern festivals. I would also share interesting stories about local people. Finally, I would remind tourists to respect the site and keep it clean. '23. If you could save only one heritage site, which one would it be? Example, if I could save only one heritage site, I would choose Ha Long Bay. The reason is that it represents natural beauty and national pride. It is one of the most famous places in Vietnam. Losing it would be a great loss to the country. Preserving Ha Long Bay means protecting both nature and culture. '24. If you could save only one. 24. How can technology help preserve heritage? Example, technology can help preserve heritage by creating virtual museums and digital records. It allows people to visit heritage sites online. This helps protect real sites from damage and makes heritage more accessible. Technology also helps store information for future. A great loss to the country. Preserving Ha Long Bay means protecting both nature and culture. '25. Do you think virtual museums will replace real ones in the future? Example, I don't think virtual museums will replace real ones in the future. Virtual museums are convenient and easy to access. However, real museums offer real experiences and emotions. People can see real objects and feel the atmosphere. Therefore, virtual museums can support real ones, but not replace them. '26. Should people pay a fee to visit heritage sites? 27. Is it acceptable to modernize old traditions? 28. Which is more important, economic development or heritage preservation? 29. Should heritage education be a compulsory school subject? 30. Do you think globalization threatens cultural identity? Why?
'26. Should people pay a fee to visit heritage sites? Example, I think people should pay a small fee to visit heritage sites. The fee can be used to repair old buildings and maintain facilities. This helps protect the sites and keep them in good condition. When people pay, they may also respect the place more. However, the fee should not be too high so that everyone can afford to visit. 27. Is it acceptable to modernize old traditions? Example, I think it is acceptable to modernize old traditions as long as we keep their original values. Modern life is changing, so traditions should also adapt. However, we should not forget the meaning behind them. If traditions are changed too much, they may lose their cultural identity. (28) Which is more important, economic development or heritage preservation? Example, I think heritage preservation is more important than economic development. Economic growth is necessary, but heritage cannot be replaced once it is destroyed. However, both are important. We should try to develop the economy in a way that does not harm cultural heritage. This is called sustainable development. (29) Should heritage education be a compulsory school subject? Example, I believe heritage education should be a compulsory school subject. This subject helps students understand history and culture. It is important for raising awareness about preserving heritage. When students learn about heritage from a young age, they will feel more responsible for protecting it in the future. (30) Do you think globalization threatens cultural identity? Why? Example, I think globalization does threaten cultural identity. Globalization leads to similar lifestyles and values around the world. As a result, some local traditions may be forgotten. However, if people are aware, they can learn from other cultures without losing their own identity.